Hi, this is Robin Heppel from Funeral Manager Secrets, and I'm really excited to show you my brand new competition and mix tracker. Now, some of you may have used the competition tracker before, but I've stepped this version up to also calculate the mix. Now, before I get into the details, let's just talk a little bit about why tracking our competition is so important. Well, because it's so competitive today, and not like a lot of other businesses, we only have one opportunity to serve a family upon a death, or someone else is going to serve them, and we can't have a sale and we can't generate additional business otherwise. But we also have to be aware now, especially today, with the variety of different services available and the variety of choices that families may choose. When you want to start increasing your market share, you want to make sure that you're going after the profitable calls and not the unprofitable calls. And also, I realize that a lot of different markets, as I travel throughout North America, are different. And people want to be able to track different things. And so it's really hard to get a one-size solution for everyone. But I've created some variables in this one that are going to give you the flexibility to tailor this tool to your market. Now, my old competition tracker I used to sell for $250, and this one is $397 because it does almost double of what the other one used to do. But you don't have to actually add a lot more information. A little bit more information, but not a lot. So let me give you a brief overview of how the competition and mix tracker works. So we're here on the dashboard, and you can see we're on the dashboard tab down here at the bottom. And here is my sample spreadsheet that I've actually inserted some numbers so that you could actually see how it looks. But what you want to do first is you want to have your name of your funeral home here, and you can just type that in. And then what I would do is actually insert your closest competition, not by geography, but by the type of service that you do, the call volume that you do, whoever's your biggest competitor. Put them here so you can have a close eye on them, and just list the rest of your competition across the top here in the green. And what that will do is it'll actually fill in these cells here. As you can see, if I double click this cell, it's going to read that one. And if we double click this one, it's going to read the top one as well. So we just enter in the name here, and it will populate it down here. So here we've got your funeral home, and then we've got the Smiths, and then we've got the Cheapos and the Joneses and the Churchills and the City Discounters and the Williams. And over here, some funeral homes like to track unknown or out-of-town calls, so you can use this for that purpose, or you can use it to track one more competitor. Then here, and this is what's new for this version, is where we put in the service type or the mix. And for this example, I have traditional burial, traditional cremation, memorial service, immediate cremation, memorial reception, and ship out. Then what you need to do is you need to factor in what your funeral averages are for these particular services. Maybe you don't have that information yet, but I'm stressing that it's time to do this. And so you either have to get with your bookkeeper or just tally up your different services that you've conducted over the last year or so and find out the averages for the various ones here. And then based on what your competitor's general price list is, and maybe if they're 25% more expensive than you, you can factor that in. And again, these are just estimates. So you want to put good information in, but we know that you can't get exact information. And what they say kind of in this world is, in the data world, if you put garbage information in, you're going to get garbage information out. So you want to put as good information as you can without having to create a brand new job for someone. So just make estimates of what they would be, and based on what your average funeral values are here. And you can see here, the Smiths I put as kind of the higher end funeral home. Cheapos, well, they're the cheapos. The Joneses and the Churchills are kind of middle of the road. And then we've got the city discounters, and then we've got the Williams. So again, this is just for an example, but that's what I've done here. Now, what is really important is after a while, when you start filling in this information, you're going to learn some things about your funeral home that you may not have, as well as how you stand in the competition for your market share. So in this column here, we're looking at just our information. So for your own funeral home. And in this first column, we're just tracking calls. Calls are important to track, but it's not the only thing to track. So this firm here did 396 calls, and we just entered in, actually we didn't enter in, these are all calculated. Now what it's telling us based on this information is the C mix is what I call the company mix. So within your own firm, based on this number, these numbers, this firm is doing 30% traditional, 21% immediate or traditional cremation, 15% memorial service, 15% immediate, 9% memorial reception, 9% ship out. Then what it tells you is how do you rank versus the rest of your competitors. So this is the market mix. So it says here that you're doing 31% of all of the traditional calls in your market, which is a good thing. And it shows that you're doing a good number of the other ones as well. But you're also doing a lot of ship outs. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. Then what it's telling you down here is that what your averages are, and it gives you your total revenues for the year, and it gives you what your percentage is of the total market in dollars. So here you had an overall market share by calls of 21%, but actually your overall market share by dollars is 23%. So you're actually doing some more profitable calls than the average. And it shows what your overall average funeral value is. Now, you can then also look at the same information for your competitors. And you can maybe see that maybe one of these competitors is really strong in one area, or maybe it looks like they're getting a lot of calls, but they're not the profitable ones. And let's just look at the cheapos here. So you can see that they're doing most of 38% of the immediate cremations. But internally, over half their business is immediate cremation. So where they have 11% of the market share by calls, they only have 6% of the market share by dollars. So if you were looking to try to steal some business, I wouldn't recommend trying to steal it from the cheapos because their averages are down here below 200,000. But so since you're 4,200, then you'd probably want to set your sights on Smiths, Churchills, and the Williams. Now as we scroll further down, this is the first set of pie charts are going to show you how your company fares, first of all, with your mix by the number of calls. So 31% are traditional, 21% cremation. Same information that's above, but it gives it to you in a very quick visual format. Now, what you can look at here is, although you're doing 31% of your calls are traditional burial, 42% of your revenues comes from those calls. So you can start to see which calls are more important. Here, 15% of your calls are immediate cremation, but those only give you 8% of your overall revenue. We'll scroll down. So here, you can then take a little snapshot of the overall market share by calls, and then also the overall market share by revenue. So you can see that your funeral home is pretty well even, but the Smiths, they were the most expensive. They did less calls, but at a higher price, and so they creep up in the market share. So these get all calculated for you automatically. And then here we break it into the different service types. And whatever you name your service type here, that information gets copied to here and down here. So you can name those whatever you want. Some people may focus on particular churches. Maybe they do the most business in 3 or 4 main churches, and maybe you want to track who's doing the business in those churches. Or maybe it's a specific niche of the market. Maybe you cater to the Jewish faith or the Mormon faith, and you're tracking that business, or some other niche. So these are very customizable, and it does all 6 categories for you automatically. So you might be wondering now, Rob, how difficult is this for me to track? This looks very complicated. Well, I just wanted to let you know that it's not that complicated at all. So here's what you have to do is all that you need to do is enter in the deceased name and identify each service with the appropriate service type. And you'll probably be able to make a pretty good guess of what type of service that was for the different calls for your competitors. And as long as there's a word or a name in this column, and as long as you put in a number from 1 through 6 in this column, all of the other information on the dashboard is going to be calculated for you automatically. And you can then work that all the way through to December, and you'll have a full, complete, competitive analysis. Not only are you going to see who's the strongest player in the market by calls, but also by dollars. And you can also see maybe who it from the outside looks like a firm's very busy, but in our example you saw that the cheapos were doing more immediate cremations than any other type of service that they had here, and you could see that that's where their whole business is based on. So that information is very valuable when you want to be able to maybe expand your business, move into a different area, and maybe you can notice from this that someone's on the brink of collapse because it looks like they're busy, but they're just doing all low-end calls, and you think, oh, well, how can they survive? They've got all the staff or what have you. So it's just great information. And as Sir Francis Bacon said, knowledge is power. Now I want to show you the blank form. You receive both of these, the sample version and the blank version. And what you need to do is then fill in the information here and fill in the averages and fill in the service types that you want to track. Now the reason why there's all these pound signs here is that back in grade 3 or grade 4 we were taught that we can't divide 0 by 0. So these are just all errors, but as soon as you start filling in January here, those will slowly start to disappear. And you can also see that the pie charts are blank at the moment. So that's it. I hope that you really get a lot of use out of this. I know that the funeral homes that have used this, they use this religiously every day, and at a glance they can go to the dashboard and see how they're doing versus their competitors, and also they use it for any future planning where they may want to then expand into a different area. And you can focus on one competitor if you wish and maybe make inroads into their market share. So I hope you find this tool as useful as the other clients have, and let me know if there's any improvements that you'd like me to make for the next version. So I hope you enjoy the competition and mix tracker. This is Robin Heppel from Funeral Manager Secrets.